Rage Against the Machine are an American rock band from Los Angeles, formed with Zach De La Rocha on vocals, Tom Morello on guitar, Brad Wilk on drums, and Tim Comerford on bass. The band released their self-titled debut album in 1992 to critical and commercial acclaim. Pioneering a style that came to be known as rap metal, the album fuses heavy riffs with De La Rocha's politically charged lyrics and impassioned vocal delivery. I first heard this album as a relatively new bass player around the age of 13. It taught me so many incredible riffs, from album opener Bomb Track, Killing in the Name, Freedom, Bullet in the Head, the list goes on. However, today I'm going to focus on Take the Power Back, seeing as it's the song that introduced me to the slap bass technique, amongst other concepts. I'm Hugh Foster, and this is episode 4 of the Songs That Taught Me Bass. Hey, Hugh Foster on the bass here. Time for episode 4 of the Songs That Taught Me Bass. If you want to get a downloadable PDF of a little cheat sheet, so all the bits that I cover in this song, all the main sections, and a backing track, which is guitar and drums for you to play along with, that's available on Patreon. Go check it out. See if you want to become a supporter. I'd really appreciate it if you did. So what did I learn from this song? Specifically, I'd say, first of all, an intro to slap bass. I heard that sound and went, ooh, what's that? And tried to figure it out. In this particular instance, I probably just got the hang of doing that and kind of like did a little weird hybrid thing until I got used to, using the thumb, and probably was going for more of a this kind of angle kind of approach instead of what I do now, which is where I'm more perpendicular with the string. What else did I learn? Some pretty useful pentatonic bass licks, switching between fingerstyle and slap. But yeah, some really useful stuff which we'll break down in a second. One other thing, double stops or power chords. There's a few of these. Tim Comerford, the Rage Against the Machine bass player, uses these all the time just to, add another layer of just heaviness to when required. But I'm not sure if I would have been attempting those as a 13-year-old. And finally, drop D tuning. I became that typical kind of like the meme basically. Once you discover drop D tuning, drop D tuning. Once I discovered that, I was like, oh, you can go lower. Oh, wow. That's like a secret thing unlocked on the bass. But yeah, and also very sort of like materialistic of me, but maybe want a Stingray. I mentioned in the previous episode how One Arm Scissor by At the Drive-In really made me want a Stingray. This was yet another one of those where I heard that bass, I looked at what he was playing, I was like, that sounds really cool, I want one. Had that real zigginess but real punchy as well, just cut through the mix like nothing else I'd heard. Let's get into breaking it down. So I've basically got each section mapped out here, and we're going to hear them in isolation, and then I'll just talk a little bit about them and see how we go. First of all, we've got our intro. I'm going to skip to the bit where we're not just doing a couple of open Ds, we're doing a bar long version basically of what we end up doing for most of the song. Here we go. I think part of what really drew me to this song was just how, prominent the bass was in the intro of the song, and how clearly you hear that opening riff. A really useful thing to pick up on, and just like, I knew when it sounded right when or close enough when I was attempting this. Basically, as well, what I was alluding to earlier on, I probably did something like this. Like a real sort of ham-fisted approach to it, but I was like, oh, that sounds close. I think if you're just starting out, technique, that can come later, as long as you're kind of getting close and it's not a complete, you're not hurting yourself with any of your technique stuff. I was probably like really kind of doing this. Like, you know, my left hand technique was all over the place, my right hand technique was all over the place. But yeah, like I said, that stuff all comes later. Let's just slow it down a bit more, hear it on its own. 3, 4. Okay, so we've got a few key things. We've got 2 open Ds, right? And then we've got hammer-ons and pull-offs. These can be a bit of a weird thing if you're first trying out, but yeah, you've got to be really sort of like intentional basically with whatever hand isn't plucking. So for a hammer-on where you're going upwards, you've got to just land without rushing on that next note. So in this case it's C to D, and yeah, I'm trying to use my little finger, but third finger would work if it's not too much of a stretch. But yeah, try and use your first and fourth fingers for most stuff. Right, and then we've got a little ghost note played with the thumb, and that sets you up to do the next bit, which is the popped bit. The only bit that you actually pop is that F, the 3rd fret on the D string, and you do a pull off there. So the opposite direction, literally as it sounds in the description, you pull away from the string and go to an open D. And then follow it up by another ghost note on the A string. And then finish it off with one more popped F. Just that little bit. If it's brand new to you and you're a proper beginner, it is achievable. Just, you know, apply yourself to each component part of the phrase. And eventually you'll get it. All right, let's move on to the next bit. I'm skipping ahead to the verse because that's got a few key moments in it. We extrapolate this riff a little bit more. And yeah, let's see how we go. As I said, it just loops around. And then in the 4th bar, you usually do something like that. So that's the general sort of like 4-bar phrase, ending with C, C sharp, D. Right? But the very first time actually, in the very first verse, there's this cool fill that actually comes back later. Let's give that a little listen. 3, 4. Okay, and at full speed I'm probably doing a few more ghost notes, but that's the general thing. And that's got a really cool thing that I was definitely not attempting when I was starting out. And it requires a little more coordination. So, especially at the end. Up to there, I think achievable. This bit here is cool. You pop a C, the 5th fret on the G string, and then straight away hit it again with the thumb. So it requires a lot of sort of like accuracy, and you know, I was definitely not attempting to hit the highest string with my thumb when I was starting out using this technique. But yeah, if you feel up to it, give this bit a go. And yeah, like I said, got some really useful D minor pentatonic information in it. But like I said, the main fill at the end is just that ascending thing from C up to D. And then the last time leading into the chorus, do something like that, which is, again, hammer on from C to D, I think a ghost note, and then one final D, all 16th notes. And yeah, that covers that section. Now let's move on to the chorus. This section played with the fingers with a bit of overdrive. Let's hear how that sounds. Really cool, this bit. Just, you know, like after all the busyness of the verse, it's just like really kind of like heavy, bit of syncopation, but a straightforward idea just played with loads of conviction. Low D, high D on the 5th fret on the A string, back down to that low D, then chromatic up from C, C sharp, back up to D, and then 2 low Ds. So yeah, always hitting that bomb bomb, that low D kind of like double up 8th note thing. And that's the entire chorus basically. Just nice and simple, loads of space. And then the last time, a bar of 2/4, and then that C becomes the beat 1 of the next bar. So those last couple of bars, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then yeah, if you can, a little slide on the low string to get you back into whatever happens next. I don't think we need to spend too much time on that one. I think just little sort of performance notes, try and match your kind of attack of the slapping with the thumb by really digging in with the fingers, and then yeah, if it's available to you, add some distortion. Yeah. So we're going to move on to the next section, which is the breakdown where you play the main riff from the verse, but with the fingers. So there's a minor difference in the actual riff itself. You don't do a pull off onto an open D. It's that's just kind of taken out of the equation. But phrasing wise, it remains the same. You just got to play it with the fingers, which might be a good introduction to you to kind of like, yeah, learning this riff if slap bass is a little tough for you. Nothing new to add really, just yeah, played a little softer because it's a breakdown section. So don't dig in quite as much as you would in the chorus. That section moves into a guitar solo, which is back to our riff played as we do in the verse with the thumb, but with some fills, one of which you've heard already, and 3 other ones which are, yeah, nice bits of rudimental slap bass kind of stuff. Let's hear it. Let's just look at each fill, basically. The first one we've done already, but just a quick reminder. 3, 4. Yeah, really good for kind of just, yeah, accuracy with the thumb. And yeah, I tend to kind of start to add a few more ghost notes with the thumb. That's just the way I approach it. Kind of helps you move things along, but I'm pretty sure he does a simplified version, whatever works for you. Fewer ghost notes, basically, yeah. Let's have a look at the next one. So this is really fun thing that sounds super impressive. The main thing is the rhythm, really. So instead of doing a hammer on, you slide and then set yourself up to do an octave and kind of slide as a whole. So keep everything kind of held down. So you're kind of letting it all ring out, but it's just octaves. So it's D, D flat, and C. And you're alternating plucking the high string and playing the lower string of the octave with the thumb. So G string and A string. The third one is really, really fun. Uses a bit of the blues scale. Yeah, a classic scale to learn, just one note added to the pentatonic minor, and doesn't start with, you know, a low D. It's just straight in with that fill, which I think, yeah, really helps it stick out. So 3, 4. Oof, nice. So basically, here it is without the ghost notes. G to A flat, back to G, F to G with a hammer on, and then F, and then C to D, and then F, 3rd fret on the E string. I'll talk about fret numbers as well. So 5th to 6th fret on the D string, G, 5th fret on the D string, 3rd to 5th with a hammer on, just 3rd on its own, and then 3rd to 5th fret on the A string, and 3rd fret on the low string. And everything on the D string is popped, and everything else is played with the thumb, and including those ghost notes in between, which I tend to play on the A string. Okay? And just on a note on ghost notes, really, just make sure that your hand is just doing as much as it can to kind of deaden the strings, and then you should get the hang of them. And don't feel like you need to kind of really attack the strings too much to get a sound. You know, it's with a bit of practice, you can get a lot of mileage with being quite efficient with how hard you attack the strings with the thumb. You know. Okay, and the last one is basically all ghost notes. Here it is. 3, 4. And again, 3, 4, 1. So I feel like it's that kind of rhythm. It might even be on the G string, that first pop that you do, but ghost notes, honestly, doesn't really matter where you play them, as long as you play them in a way that, you know, that's comfortable and kind of makes sense for the context. Let's move into one of my favorite sections, the bridge, which is, again, played with the fingers, and it's just this repeated phrase that just goes around and slows down a little bit, which is a really cool thing to do with these kind of riffs. Yeah, potentially one of the simplest parts of the song, literally just descending down from D to C, so 1 fret at a time, 5th fret, 4th fret, 3rd fret on the A string, and then climbing back up from F, 3rd fret on the low string, G, 5th fret, and then C. So basically, you can think of it as a descending part and an ascending part. And the rhythm is the tricky thing, is 1E and a 2E and a 3E and 1E and a 2E and a 3E and 4 and. So yeah, the first part, heavily syncopated, but yeah, everyone's playing it, so it shouldn't be too hard to latch onto that. And one final thing with this, performance-wise, dig in. And have fun with it. Couple more sections to cover. We've got the outro, basically, which you can split into 2 parts. This breakdown, it's basically a C chord. The guitar's kind of doing like a similar-ish kind of like thing, rhythm-wise. This is one of the only bits where there's an actual bit of like harmony, chord changes kind of going on. It's all riffs otherwise. Let's hear it in context first. point. Yeah, I don't need to play the whole thing because it's literally that one thing played over a few times. So like if you think of it as a 4-bar chord sequence, you play that 4-bar chord sequence 4 times. So you're basically 16 bars of the same thing. And what it is C, 3rd fret on the A string, G, 5th fret on the D string, and then a high C, 5th fret on the G string. And which fingers you use, I think is kind of important here. 1st finger here, 3rd finger, ring finger on the middle note, the G, and then little finger on the high note. And the way that he's playing it, softly, and I feel like playing it a little higher up towards the neck is going to get is the ideal way to approach it. You get a warmer sound that way. It's much mellower, even on a Stingray, which is, you know, notorious for being bright and growly. And let notes ring out, and you know, nice and kind of just you know, chill out for 16 bars before you get into the outro. Rhythm wise, yeah, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you might want to throw in the occasional lower note, but yeah, I think try and keep it clean and simple. You know, this bit's not about, you know, showing off or anything. It's about just holding it down. That's the first part of what we're calling the outro, and then it's into one of the most fun parts. Again, this song is just full of just fun moments. This album is just full of great riffs. Just I listened to it again recently, obviously, to kind of do my research for this, and it's just killer. Just like not a weak song on it, I don't think. But yeah, here we go with the outro using those double stops that I mentioned earlier. How to approach this. So it's just descending D power chord, so that's 5th fret on the A string, 7th fret on the D string, and do that down a fret and then down one more. And it's kind of up to you how you approach this. I tend to kind of just rake over it with the finger in the right hand, but you know, you could do a sort of more sort of like across the strings kind of like thing with the thumb there for a slightly different sound. You could pluck it with one finger each, so a finger on the first finger on the A string, second finger on the D string. But I feel like for speed, that rake approach is going to be the best way. But you know, you might have a different approach. You could do thumb and finger as well. But yeah, I think again slows you down slightly. At full speed, I feel like that first finger just raking across takes a bit of practice to get that clean, but yeah, that's how I approach it. So you do 3 of those, and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and so that bit at the end, C, C sharp, C being 3rd fret on the A string, C sharp being 4th fret, and then you're back to those, and you do that for 4 repeats at 1 tempo, and then 2 more repeats at a slightly slower tempo where the drum feel changes and it comes even slightly shuffly. It's yeah, really interesting. Kind of the drums do something like that. To finish it off, D. Just played with loads of conviction. No distortion as far as I can tell. The distortion's only in the chorus. Just really go for it. And that basically covers this song. Unless there's anything I've particularly missed, or if there's anything that needs clarifying, do let me know in the comments, and of course do let me know how you get on with this one. Hello. So it turns out I did forget to mention a couple of things. First of all, the bass. It's a mid-90s Stingray, strung with round wounds, elixirs I believe, just 45, 105. I don't really care too much about strings. I think, you know, tone is in the fingers, but yeah, anyway. So it's a 3 EQ model, bass boosted about 75% of the way around, mid, flat, so in the notch there, and treble just a touch over. So a tiny bit of treble boost. And then my pedal board, so I'm running into a Cali 76 compressor, which is always on, set to a slow attack, fast release setting. It just enhances what's already there a subtle amount. I really, really like it as an always on kind of setting. And then going into the DAW via my Noble preamp, which in this case, because I'm doing EQing on the bass, that is flat, but yeah, it's a lovely tube preamp. In Ableton, which is my DAW of choice, I'm running a couple of key things. So I'm running an amp sim, the Ampeg SVT Classic one, which is one of the ones that comes bundled with all Universal Audio interfaces, and it's just great at getting, you know, pretty solid rock tone, just that little bit of grit. And for the bits where I'm needing distortion, I'm using the Raw plugin, also Universal Audio, another one that comes bundled with it. I haven't paid any extra money on these things, you know. And that's the one which is based on the Rat, which is like an 80s distortion pedal. I believe Tim Comerford used a Marshall Governor on the early Rage Against the Machine stuff. But yeah, I thought this, you know, work with what you got, right? And this seemed to get close enough for me. Probably a bit higher in the mix and a bit more aggressive than what you can obviously hear in the final mixed version. But yeah, I had fun with it and thought, yeah, it suited the vibe. Anyway, that's it from me today. That was episode 4 in the songs that taught me bass. A really sort of pivotal one for me. Bit of slap bass, bit of drop D. Again, really gassing for a Stingray, which I finally got a few years later. But yeah, enjoy it. Let me know how you guys get on with this one. Cheers, and I'll see you next time.